Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Richard Hoke, and I want to welcome you to another mission in Welcome to Word in the 21st Century. Today, we're going to continue working with tables. We're going to insert field numbers into the captions, and we'll orient the sections of the tables. That is, we're going to be able to have numbers in our captions, and we'll be able to make our tables run horizontally instead of vertically, or as Word would have it, we'll be using landscape mode instead of portrait mode. Okay, I'll share my screen with you and let's get cracking. Okay, first off, notice that I've got the share hide button on so we can see what's going on with our paragraphs, as well as seeing our little spaces between words, etc. Okay, this will help us out as we work with sections. Recognize, of course, our boilerplate sections here and two tables that we've made already, our supplier table and our states and capitals and flowers table. All right. So what I want to do first is show you how to number captions. All right. We've been using TBD here instead of putting numbers in our captions. Now let's find out how to actually make a system of numbers, a set of numbers, so that we can, if we add or subtract the table, the numbering will work continuously. What we're going to do is we're going to use something called fields. And we'll have another lesson about fields later in the course, but I want to show you this one right now to help us make our captions complete. So a field is kind of a place marker that it's a way to have we can put a field for the date and we'll automatically have today's date there. We can put uh, a page sequence, so we automatically have a page. We can have a link to another page type thing, all of these. What we're going to do now is a sequence, and we'll have a sequence just for tables. So let me show you how to go about this. First of all, we'll select what we want the field to be. All right, we'll select TBD. We're going to now go into the insert ribbon. I'm going to select here in quick parts field. Okay, again, insert ribbon over here, quick parts field. This gives us a list of fields. We want one called sequence. Okay, and we're going to define the sequence here. We'll call the sequence table. In other words, we can have more than one sequence in a document. For example, we can have a sequence for our tables, and we can have a sequence for our illustrations, our figures, right? We don't want to use the same numbering system for both figures and tables. We want to have separate ones. So for tables, we'd have sequence table, and for uh, illustrations or figures, we'd have sequence figure or sequence illustration, whatever we want to call it. Whatever name we give it is simply a way for us to keep track of it. I can call this sequence Fred. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's just my way of keeping track. Obviously, you want to use sequence names that are meaningful and kind of obvious, so that if tomorrow someone has to take over my document, they'll know, oh, this is a table. If I called it Fred, what they do with that, you know? So again, always plan for someone else to take over your documents. Maybe you'll win the lottery, maybe you'll be on vacation, maybe other things will happen. You want always to have your documents ready for someone else to take over if needed. Sequence table. We'll click OK, and voila, one. Okay, it's the first table. That's what we'd expect. Okay, now I'm going to add again the same sequence to this table, and we'll see that it will make it. It'll have a two. Okay, again, insert quick parts field sequence. I've got a specified table. Okay. And there we go. We got two. All right. So we're set. Now, if you ever need, if you are cutting and pasting tables and messing around with tables, if you ever need to, you can always right click on a field, any field, and update a field. So that if we have been copy pasting tables all over, we could do this once. We could update our fields, and this is for one field. There's another way to update all fields, and that way you can keep everything up to date properly. But we just want to keep it simple today, just simply adding the field and defining it. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to show you is, let's say that we want to organize our sections, we want to orient them. Let's say that this table had 20 columns. Maybe we done something from a spreadsheet. Something that was really too long, too big for a page going this way. Maybe we'd have, if we had 20 columns here, each would be too small to be legible. So what we want to do is we want to make part of we want to see how to make part of our document be sideways, as it were, landscape mode, as it's called here. Okay, so what I want to do is we're going to turn our document into sections, and that way we can make one section oriented on landscape while the rest is oriented on portrait. By default, when you open a document and start working, you have one section by default, and that section is portrait. Okay, so now we're going to see how to make our document into a number of sections and how to orient them. So I'm going to want to have a section break here, okay, between my text and my tables. So I'm going to want to, okay, in my layout, I'm going now to layout, okay. In my breaks, I'm going to choose the kind of break I want. A page break is actually going to move us to another page. Uh, we can ignore columns and text wrapping for right now. That's okay. This gives us a page break. We'd still be in the same section. Section breaks. Okay, we begin a new section on the next page. Continuous section break would be a section break on this page. Even or odd, we can actually say we want this to be even or odd page number. This is relevant if we're working on a printed document. There is a convention that all new chapters begin on the odd page. Not everybody goes with that, but it is if you look at older books, you'll see that all new chapters begin on page 1, page 3, page 17, whatever. That's not done so much now, and in fact, since we are usually working on online documents, odd even pages is irrelevant. We're going to do a continuous page break for now. Okay. And you can see that we have it's marked. The continuous page break is marked there. Excuse me. If I was to turn off my button here, my show hide button, that marking goes away. Of course, it doesn't print, it doesn't do anything, it won't show up, but you can see why it's very helpful to know where your section break is. Okay, now I'm going to want to add another section break here so I can put my tables uh, in landscape and the rest in portrait. Okay, and kind of arbitrary, of course. So again, we go in layout, choosing breaks, continuous section break. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in my section and in layout still, I'm going to click on orientation and choose landscape. Okay, and we can see that now we have our sections, our tables are in landscape. Section break ends. We have a section break, excuse me. And we have our new uh, go back to portrait. Now, of course, you want to clean up perhaps our document. We'll get rid of this little carriage return. We'll get rid of this carriage return. Now you'll notice that there's a carriage return, paragraph marker, after okay, after this table. Okay, that's by default. You can get rid of it if you want. The problem with getting rid of the line after the table is that you may want to reformat the following line. Okay, this is something about Word that it automatically gives you a line after a table. And again, you might want to create a specific style for lines after tables. Whatever you want to do here, just be aware of that. Don't be surprised. Okay. All right. That is basically it for our demonstration. We've seen how to insert a field for our table numbering, and we've seen how to divide a document into sections and to make one or more sections in having a layout orientation. Again, orientation is here. Section breaks are controlled by the break section. Everything here is in layout. The field is from the insert quick parts field and then choosing sequence. We will work more with fields and sections later, but for now, that's all you need. All right. Thanks. Have a great day.